The ads are done. The lines are down. The votes are counted. And now we're going to see how you, the voters, voted. Hi, everybody. It's time now for our election returns from the 2014 midterm election. I'm Bob Vergils, and with Dan Shaw, we're co-hosting tonight here on Impact, and we're glad that you're with us, listening to us on radio, and we also are on YouTube across the globe tonight. So we're very, very glad that you're with us here tonight as we take a look at Monroe County and some of the other results from around the nation, state, and the nation and the state. So Dan, welcome. How are you?
I'm great, and it's great to be here. There's something about election night that has energy in it, electricity. It's just it's democracy at work.
It is.
And as Americans, we're very proud of the fact that this is the way we do things. We are self-governing. We elect the people who run our country at the local level, the state level, the national level, and that's a pretty cool thing. It's nice to be part of it, and I'm looking forward to sharing the results with you tonight.
And a lot of results we do have. As we mentioned, we'll be touching periodically on state and nation results. But the big thing, the reason you're tuning into us tonight, is to find out some of the local results. So let's go over some of those results now. And we will start with the Monroe County numbers from the governor's race. And as you will be able to see in just a moment, in the governor's race, the incumbent Rick Snyder is leading 1153 to 969. Now these are in Monroe County, obviously, and this is with two precincts in. This is just Raisinville. We now take a look at the United States Senate race, which has Terry Lynn Land and Gary Peters. Gary Peters a slight lead, 1,029 to 1,015. We continue now. We will look at the congressional race. And the congressional race has the incumbent Tim Walberg leading Pam Burns by a score of 1158 to 835. And we also have some other results to pass along to you to add on to those totals. Now, the totals that are on your screen right now are Monroe County only, but through an arrangement we have with radio station WLEN in Adrian tonight, we also have results from there. Now, with 3 precincts in Lenawee County, you add another 757 votes to Tim Walberg and another 454 for Pam Burns. So for Walberg, that would put him up a little bit over 1,900, and Burns a little over 1,200, in fact, almost 1,300 votes. Now we go on to the next slide, which will be the state Senate race. The state Senate race has Dale Zorn, and it has Doug Spade, a very, very highly contested race. Two gentlemen who both have spent a number of years in the Michigan legislature, and they now are going for a higher prize, the seat that's being vacated by Randy Richardville. So far, through 2 precincts, we have Dale Zorn leading Doug Spade in Monroe County results. That's 1,033 to 722. And now you add on the results from Lenawee County, where Dale Zorn, through 3 precincts, has 680 votes. Doug Spade, 573. So for Dale, that would be roughly 1,700 votes. And for Doug Spade, that would be roughly 1,300 votes. That is the adding in the 3 precincts that we have from Lenawee County. Now, we go on to the state rep race. And there are 2 state representative races in Monroe County. Now, the first one we have no results in because that one is not for Raisinville Township. But we do have, in the Jason Shepard and Tom Redmond race, we have these numbers. And this is pretty tight so far in the first 2 precincts. Jason Shepard, 880 to Tom Redmond's 214. So, or excuse me, 814. So that is pretty tight right there so far. And we continue with our results. And what we will have now is the probate court race. This has been a very hotly contested race between Cheryl Lohmeyer and Jill Lavoie. And as you'll see on the screen momentarily, we will have those numbers. And through 2 precincts, it's Cheryl Lohmeyer 936, Jill Lavoie 612. Now let's take a look at the 1st District Court race now. That is really not a race, although there's 2 names on there. As you know, Mark Braunley got the most votes in the primary, even though he was not running. So that put him in a runoff with Jared Calkins. And so far, through 2 precincts, Jared Calkins 809 votes, Mark Brownlick 684. Now we must remind you that Judge Brownlick, now a circuit court judge, has said he will not serve if elected, if re-elected as a first district judge. Now let's look at the Monroe County Community College trustees race. 6 people vying for that. As you can see, 12-year incumbent Bill Brownlick is leading the pack with 813 votes. We also have Lynette Dowler, who a newcomer and member of the Alumni Association Board, has 579. For Mary Kay Thayer, 564. Then we also have Ignacio Cuccia with 426, Barb Barron with 412, and Jack Schwab with 344. Once again, we're real early that we have 2 precincts that show up in this. Now, let's go to the race everybody wants to see. That's the Monroe County Community College levy. And there's our totals. It's yes 743 and no 1,011. That is through the first 2 precincts, which are in Raisinville. Now let's join Dan over in Studio D. It would be Studio D since it's Dan, and he has Monroe County Community College trustee candidate Jack Schwab with him. Dan, Jack?
Jack, it's great to have you with us tonight. Of course, the results are very early, so we don't really know what's going on with the 6 candidates for the 3 positions on the Board of Trustees. And it's very early for the Monroe County Community College millage, and so we don't really know how that's going to go. But let's start by telling us a little bit about why you ran for the Board of Trustees at the college.
Well, I'm very proud of the Monroe County Community College and what they've been able to accomplish over the last 50 years. You know, they're the only higher education institution we have in Monroe County, and I personally took advantage of that. I took an accounting course when I first came here, and really got a boost locally. I appreciated the fact that it was only 5 miles from my home. I could travel there after work, and it wasn't expensive. So it's the same today as it was, 30 years ago. It's affordable, it's local, and it's a good quality education. Plus, classes are small, so you can get to know the faculty. You can become a colleague with your instructor rather than really a student. So it's just a great place, and that's why I ran. I want to do everything I can to support it.
Okay. I should probably say for full disclosure purposes that although I'm a career journalist, and that's what I'm doing here tonight on this election coverage, I also now teach journalism at Monroe County Community College. So I have a stake both in the election for trustees, because of course I want the best people to win, and for the millage for the college, because those of us who teach there see the importance of passing this millage in order to continue the quality we have. So I just want to make sure viewers knew, as I asked questions, that I also have a stake in this community college. So of all the issues that the college has to face, and there are a number, every institution in this world has issues that they have to deal with, what are the things that you're running for the board to fix or make better, or things you want to do to improve the college?
Well, Dan, over the last 20 years, there's been quite a change in the sources of revenue for the college. 20 years ago, about 20% of the fund's overall budget came from student tuition and fees. Now that's risen to about 36%. So we've had a roughly 15-16% increase in tuition as a percentage of the total budget. At the same time, the millage funds as a percentage of the budget have fallen from about 57% to 46%. So you've had 11% reduction there. So what's happening is, as happened everywhere, students are paying more, tax dollars are paying less, and I think that what we need to do is make sure that we can keep those tuition funds as affordable as possible. And that's really one of the advantages of the community college. When you look at the community college, compare it to the state colleges. First of all, you're looking at a 4-year college, at least 4 or 5 times as much tuition that you're paying, and as a percentage of the total, it's much higher. So what I'm really interested in, and what I think the issue is to keep the tuition as affordable as possible, keep the debt that students graduate with as affordable as possible, make it as convenient as possible for people to go to college. And also, I think the training aspects are really important. We've got a fantastic new technology center there. I want to see it utilized as much as possible by local folks.
Okay. You know, this might be a good time for me to also mention that this election night coverage here at the Monroe Public Access TV is partly possible because we have students who are helping us here as volunteers in the studio. Some students from Monroe High School and also students from Monroe County Community College, and doing a number of the behind-the-scenes responsibilities. So picking up on that point about tuition, I know as an employee of the college and someone who's witnessed it firsthand for the last 7 years that the college has had to tighten its belt each year over this period that kind of started around 2008. It just continued to now with a little bit tighter budget each year and things having to be cut. Fiscal responsibility is a big part of what the Board of Trustees is all about. And I watched them this year make the decision it was time to put this millage on the ballot. It was not an easy decision for them because they are a pretty conservative fiscally group, pretty conservative group fiscally. So I guess I'd like to ask you what you think about the millage, whether you think it's going to pass and whether you think that it's the right thing for Monroe County.
Well, I think it's going to pass because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to support education. Now, I think that one of the things that, if I'm elected, one of the things that we need to do at the college is we need to run it like a business. I mean, I have a business background. I've seen cuts. I've gone through a lot of cuts, mergers and acquisitions in my place of work. So I understand being fiscally conservative and being responsible with the funds that you have to work with. I think that really, I think that you also need to make sure that the amount that you pay and the benefits you have for instructors is competitive with the other schools. We live here in Monroe County in an area where instructors like yourself can teach here. They can probably teach at Washtenaw, they can teach at Wayne, they can teach in Lucas County. And we have to make sure that we have benefits and compensation that's attractive, that we get the best teachers. When you pay your tuition, you want to make sure that you're in a class, you're spending your time, you're studying. You want to make sure that you've got the best teacher possible helping you to lead you in your courses. And so I think that's something that we have to constantly keep in mind.
Okay. Well, we are going to move on back to Bob now and see what he's doing with the results. Depending on what goes on with the evening, we might ask you to come back on air with us again. So thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, it's back to you.
Thanks, Dan. We are back. We've got some more results in now. Summerfield Township results now are in. And you see I am joined by Tyler Hammock from the Monroe High School Lotus Leaf. He's going to be joining me for this round of election results as we look at some results that now are in that were not before. So let's go back to the governor's race if we can, and we'll update you on the Monroe County numbers for the governor's race. As you see, Rick Snyder in Monroe County voting is opening up a little bit greater lead on Mark Schauer by 1153 to 969. That's in Monroe County voting. We now take a look at United States Senate, where Gary Peters continues to hang on to a very slim lead here in Monroe County on Terry Lynn Land, as you see 1029 to 1015. I don't think those numbers have increased. I don't think we might only have 2 precincts there. Let's look now at the U.S. Representative race, and let's go back to the Congress race. There we are. Tim Walberg now through 3 precincts, which is Summerfield and Raisinville, has opened up a lead here in Monroe County, 1158 to 835 over Pam Burns. And we also can add in some Lenawee County numbers through 5 precincts in Lenawee County. You add another 1307 for Wahlberg, putting him at almost 2,500. And for Pam Burns, another 735, putting her a little over 1,500. Now, the next slide we go to is for the Michigan Senate, and this is 3 precincts here in Monroe County, 2 Raisinvilles and 1 Summerfield. It's Dale Zorn, 1,222 votes to Doug Spade's 863 in the attempt to replace Randy Richardville. Now let's add in the Lenawee County numbers through 5 precincts. For Dale Zorn, in Lenawee County, he's polled 1,216 votes, putting him at 2,438 through, now this is all unofficial, obviously, and Doug Spade has 900 votes out of Lenawee County, so Dale Zorn continues to lead Doug Spade in his home territory, but you add another 900 to Doug Spade, that will put him at about 1,700. So through 8 precincts, when you talk about 2 counties, Dale Zorn now has about a 700 vote lead. Let's go now to the State Representative District 56, and we're going to bring Tyler Hammock in here now. Tyler, there's been 3 precincts reporting now. Why don't you tell the folks what the vote totals are so far?
Well, Tom Redmond is at 994, and Jason Shepard's at 1034, so he has a little bit of a lead there.
Okay, and our next slide will show us the probate court race, which is Cheryl Lohmeyer and Jill Lavoie. Why don't you do us the honors again, Tyler?
Jill Lavoie is sitting at 745, while Cheryl Lohmeyer is at 1076, so opening up a little bit.
And once again, that's through 3 precincts. We now go to 1st District Court, where Jared Calkins continues to lead the non-running Mark Braunlich, 949 to 808. That, once again, is through 3 precincts. I think we have updated totals too on the Monroe County Community College trustees. Yes, indeed we do. As you see, William Braunlich and Mary Kay Thayer both are incumbents, and they are leading. Braunlich with 931, Mary Kay Thayer with 697, and in 3rd place is Lynette Dowler with 664. And we'll take another look at the Monroe County Community College 1 mill property tax levy, and that I think those totals might still be what we saw before, 1,011 no and 743 yes for the Monroe County Community College levy. Now, we're going to bring Dan Shaw back up here. We're going to have to kind of do a little bit of soft shoe up here now as we take a look at the numbers, and we move Tyler out and Dan in, because I'm going to have to move out in a second. Dan, your impression so far tonight is we're about a half an hour, well, about 20 minutes into everything.
Well, this is considered to be potentially a big year for Republicans. And at the national level, Republicans are hoping that they can take over the U.S. Senate. Here in Michigan, we have one of the races that plays in that Carl Levin, longtime senator from Michigan, has resigned, and there are 2 looking to replace him. And I was just doing some checking here to see what I could find in terms
they're
of.
going to put a shot right on you, and I'm going to step off the camera here for a minute. Because we have there we go.
Congressman Gary Peters, the Democrat, wanted to replace Carl Levin, and he was challenged by Terry Lynn Land, a Republican, former Secretary of State, and that made for a very interesting race for us here in Michigan as part of this bigger picture of who was going to take over the U.S. Senate, whether Democrats were able to keep it or Republicans would take over. Right now, in early returns, Gary Peters is leading Terry Lynn Land, so it looks like in Michigan anyway, the Senate is going to remain in the hands of the Democrats. Nationally, though, the Republicans are looking pretty good, and early returns show that Mitch McConnell in Kentucky has won his seat, and that some of the other swing seats that they're not sure about look like they're going to the Republicans now. So it looks like it's going to go down to the very late election results tonight, whether we find out whether the Democrats will continue to control the U.S. Senate, or whether the Republicans will take it over and give them both the House and the Senate for these last 2 years of Barack Obama's campaign. I think it's time to switch us over to Bob Virgils, who has a very special guest. Bob?
And we're back. We're now over on the interview stage, and we have a very, very special guest. And this might be the first time you've been on Impact since you returned from Atlantic City, I would bet. This is KT Maviglia, Miss Michigan, and you got involved politically this year. And in fact, you had dinner just recently, lunch recently, with a very famous person. Let us know who that is.
I did. I just had lunch with the governor 2 weeks ago, and it was also in support of Dale Zorn, who's running for Senate.
And I know you weren't a real political person before you became Miss Michigan and before you went to the state pageant, but that you've had to have kind of a baptism under fire, haven't you?
Yes. Since I got involved with the Miss Michigan organization, I have taken a few trips to Lansing and some very exciting trips. Dale Zorn, who is running for Senate, kind of took me under his wing. He was actually my judge when I won Miss Monroe, and he traveled with me twice to Miss Michigan. He's been a great supporter of me. His wife Cindy, his little niece Rory, she's riding in the Christmas and Ida parade with me, which is very exciting. But I'm just so thankful to have Dale in my life because you know, he really just embraced my platform, and that's something that we do in the Miss Michigan organization. We have platforms, and mine is Listen Up, advocating for those with hearing disabilities. And Dale set up a meeting with the Lieutenant Governor, Brian Calley, and I talked to him about getting more hearing aid coverage through insurance. And I'm excited that, you know, coming up here in November, I actually will be going to Lansing, and my bill will be introduced. So I'm just so thankful.
Will Dale be the sponsor of it?
Yes, he is, and I will be there on the floor with him later in November.
So you're probably, being that you're so close with Dale and his family, you're probably very happy to see that after 8 precincts, he's got a 700-vote lead over 2 counties. Now, that's obviously unofficial, but...
Yes, I'm very excited. You know, I know Dale's nervous, and it's kind of funny because Dale is always supporting me, and I'm the one in the spotlight. And now it's kind of, tables have turned, and I'm supporting him. And I know he's nervous, just like I was competing in pageants, especially Miss Michigan and Miss America. But, you know, I'm just so excited for him because what an opportunity. And, you know, I wish him the best of luck.
And I'm sure he's happy there's no swimsuit competition in the state Senate race.
I would guess so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's happy about that one.
So as you've gotten involved in politics, what's the one thing that really is an impression that has been left with you about now that you've been able to deal with people of high rank statewide and things?
Yeah, I'm really impressed with people that really care about the communities because that's really, as Miss Michigan, that's my job, is to reach out to communities. And as Miss Michigan, I've realized that I don't just represent, you know, this county or that county. I represent everyone throughout the state, and I think that's something that Dale Zorn and a lot of other people in politics that I've, you know, really got to know. You know, I can tell when people really care about the community and care about the people, and that's what's important when you're voting.
And you got to vote this year, right?
I did, yes. I'm actually 22, so it was exciting. The first time I voted, I actually was doing the presidential election, so that was exciting for me. And I voted today. I have my sticker. It's somewhere. It might have fallen off, but yeah, it's exciting.
Well, KT, it's great to have you here and to be able to share with us some of your adventures and some of your impression that you had through the political process. And continued good luck as Miss Michigan.
Thank you.
We're so very, very, very proud of you, and continuing on that fantastic legacy of young ladies in Monroe County. And continued good luck, and we are going to be watching when you are on the floor of the House to help. He possibly then will be Senator-elect.
Yes,
Zorn,
yes, it's very exciting.
as he introduces the bill. So, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Michigan, KT Maviglia, we thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Now we go back to Dan over at the Election Central table.
And we do have some more election results for you at the state level. If you're not following the state issues anywhere else, we can tell you that most of the state's major media have now declared that Rick Snyder will have another 4 years as governor of Michigan. He's defeated Mark Schauer in the race for Michigan's governor. In the other prominent race at the state level, they've also declared that Gary Peters has won to be our new U.S. Senator for Michigan, the junior senator replacing Carl Levin. He beats Terry Lynn Land, the former Secretary of State, in that race. The The governor's race was considered to be pretty much Snyder's to lose, and he had a large lead not that long ago. But as often happens with elections, in the days leading up to the election, that lead got smaller and smaller, and there were people giving Schauer a chance to win, especially if there was a big voter turnout. And so it really kind of turned, especially in the greater Detroit area, whether they were able to get enough Democratic voters out to make a difference. And now the Free Press and a couple of TV stations have declared that that Snyder is going to be have 4 more years as governor of Michigan. In not that close of a race, not nearly as close as the polls showed that it might have been. We're getting some more results in things like the Monroe County Community College trustees race, and so let me update you on that. William Bronlick is still leading by quite a bit. William Bronlick is an incumbent who has been on the board for a number of terms. He's second in that race is Mary Kay Thayer, who is the other incumbent. William Bromlick is from Monroe, Mary Kay Thayer is from the South County, and they're both mainstays of the Board of Trustees for the community college for a long time. Also, it looks like in these early returns that likely to be the third member. Remember, there's 6 people running for 3 positions on the board. Lynette Dowler has almost the same number as Mary Kay Thayer, and kind of nearly tied with 835. Not that far back, and certainly there's lots of votes to be counted, so the other 3 candidates still have a chance: Ignacio Cusia, Jack Schwab, and Barbara Varon. Bob, the Agora, the student newspaper at Monroe County Community College, which I advise as a journalism professor there, held a candidates forum for the trustees a couple weeks ago, and it was a really interesting night where 5 of the 6 candidates, William Bromlick was out of town and couldn't attend, but the other 5 all talked with amazing passion about how much they care about the community college. And I came away from that feeling like any of the 6 candidates would make good members of the Board of Trustees, because a number of them had been students at the college.
Oh, absolutely.
And that they brought with, as we heard earlier from Jack Schwab, who had been a previous student, they brought to their candidacy that intimacy that comes from actually having been there. And
can I tell a story about Barb Varon now?
You sure can.
A lot of people don't realize about Barb Varon, but she pitched the 2nd game ever in the history of Monroe County Community College women's softball. There was a women's softball team, a lot of people don't realize that or remember that, back in 1980, and Barb pitched the 2nd game of a doubleheader. I don't know how she did, I can't recall that, but I'm sure, I'm glad I don't have my phone on my hip, because I'm sure I'll be getting a text. Virgil, why did you say that?
Well, Barb was one of the people who talked about how much she loved the college and wanted to represent the college because she wanted to give back to it.
Sure.
And I think that was basically the theme of those candidates for the Board of Trustees.
Sure. And I'm wondering if it's possible, if we can go back to the Zorn-Spade race. So the folks who are running our slides, we do have an update. Now, the figures have remained the same, 1222 for Dale Zorn and 863 for Doug Spade in Monroe County. Now, those are the 3 precincts, but now with 11 precincts counted in Lenawee County, there's a little bit of a shift, because Doug Spade now has picked up 2,507 votes, which puts him at 3,300 or thereabouts. Dale has 2,133 votes, which puts him at about the same level. So that race has tightened up considerably when you add in the Lenawee County votes. And even though Lenawee County considered a Republican area, Doug Spade was a very, very popular legislator when he was there for his 3 terms. So, and a very popular disc jockey too. He and I were disc jockeys together back years ago. So.
One of the things that shifts constantly about politics is that each 10 years we get a chance to redraw the districts,
yes.
And that district is one that changed, and voters shifted from Washtenaw County in that district to Lenawee County, and it changed the whole dynamics of the race. Dale Zorn is very popular as a former county commissioner here in Monroe County, but not as well known in Lenawee County, and so we'll see how that shapes up as the evening goes on. And
you mentioned. Redistricting and changing things around. A name that's been a staple for years down here now is not, and that's John Dingle, who has stepped aside, and Debbie is his wife running for his seat. Now, have you seen any updates on that?
I have, and that's one of the races that they called very early, that Debbie Dingle will replace her husband as a U.S. Congresswoman. and we'll continue that. I don't know if it's fair to call it dynasty, but family.
Probably about as close as anybody.
But family control of that seat in the U.S. Congress, and of course, people from Monroe County think of the Dingell family as practically their own because they were our representative for so long.
And they represented Monroe County so well. I mean, Monroe County Community College, Congressman Dingell opened up some money for a few projects out there.
Yeah.
Speaking of Monroe County Community College, I think we have another guest here. Is that, yes?
We do.
We
And
do.
I'll go get with Kojo Corte, the president of the college, and we'll bring you a discussion with him soon.
Hey, thank you, Dan. Let's go back over some of the results that we have in case you are joining us. As you see, we have the U.S. Congress, or you don't see yet, but you will very soon, the U.S. Congress race. These are still 3 precincts from Monroe County. I don't think we've had any others come in. Tim Wahlberg, 1158, Pam Burns, 835. And you add in the numbers from Lenawee County. Again, this is after 11 precincts. And the Tim Wahlberg with 2384 out of Lenawee County, putting him at roughly 3,400. Actually, almost 3,500. Pam Burns with another 2,051 out of Lenawee County, putting her at about 2,900. So let's continue with the next races. I see next on the slides, the governor's race. Now, these are Monroe County figures only. And in listening to some of the radio broadcasts when I was not on camera and before I came here tonight, that the turnout throughout the state of Michigan was very, very high. Talking to Mrs. Lavoie, the Monroe City Clerk, before I came over here tonight, she was saying that they had a very strong turnout in the city of Monroe. Now, this is her first election, first general election. She had a primary election before. This is her first general election, but she said it was very, very high. The numbers were very strong throughout the city of Monroe, and we should be getting those shortly. We have a couple of correspondents over there from Monroe High School. Once again, we also want to thank the journalism students of Mr. Shaw from Monroe County Community College and the journalism students and the Lotus Leaf students from Monroe High School for being our feet on the ground, as it were, over at the various clerks' offices throughout Monroe County. We'll also be supplementing some of our numbers throughout the night, too, from numbers from the Monroe Evening News, because they also have their people in some places we are not, for instance, Frenchtown and Bedford Township. But now we have a very special guest standing by with Dan. So, Dan Shaw, tell us who your guest is.
So I'm here with Dr. Kojo Corte, who is the president of Monroe County Community College and one of the key movers behind the millage that was placed on the ballot by the Board of Trustees at the college. So, Dr. Corte, how do you feel tonight as we wait for the results to come in?
Yeah, well, first of all, Dan, thanks for having me on your show this evening. And we feel good. We are very confident about this because this is education we are talking about here. We're the only college in this county. And so we believe that as Monroe County Community College goes, so goes the county, because education is the key to resolving problems of ignorance, poverty, and it's the key to success, and it's that roadmap to prosperity that I always talk about. So we're feeling good about this.
Okay. Now, you've been very busy. You've been around the county in lots of places. I don't even know if you have a count of how many talks you give and people you've visited with over these last few months leading up to this millage. But it must be thousands, right?
Oh, it's easily thousands. Even just today, I was out in a parking lot somewhere. I'm not going to tell you where. Putting flyers on people's windows today. We did that yesterday. We worked all weekend. We visited businesses in Monroe and Dundee and Bedford and Temperance. And I've been on so many shows, spoken to so many groups. The Kiwanis, the Rotary, Altrusa, Seroptimist, just a number of organizations that we've spoken to. And we've done a lot of TV shows and even radio. And it's so far, it's all been positive. It's all been positive. So we feel good about this, Dan.
So the point of all this contact with people is to make sure they understand why Monroe County Community College needs this millage.
Exactly.
So what's the kind of the short version of the message you're giving?
Yeah, short version of the message is that We haven't had a millage in 34 years. We stand for education here in this community. But first of all, it's to keep tuition low. We charge about $100 a credit hour, then compared to 4 or 5 times that at other institutions. We want to certainly maintain and retain some of our programs, start some new and innovative programs. We're essentially going to try to, and we've been doing this, train the workforce of the future. If not us, then who? Technology, try to update our technology on campus, and we have some facility challenges also. We have deferred maintenance. We have facilities that have not had any maintenance in the past, I don't know, 34 years. We have a boiler plant that's supposed to be in operation for 20 years. It's been going for almost 35 years now. And of course, the student success issues. We have the LAL, the Learning Assistance Lab for students with disabilities, and that number continues to grow, the number of students with disabilities. So this is to help with all of that, and to really bring this institution up to par, to make it competitive, so we can get the best and the brightest here from Monroe County community to attend our institution. And as we like to say, you can start here and go anywhere. So they come to us, they start with us, we take them, shape them, and make them the best that they can be, then we send them on to the next place. So it's about the training programs as well as the transfer programs.
Yeah, all of us who are faculty at the college have success stories of students who have come to the community college and were sort of directionless when they arrived, and they left with a purpose, and they went on to make successes of their life. It seems like everywhere you turn in Monroe County, you run across someone like that.
Yeah, 70% of the individuals that we surveyed indicate that they either attended the community college, they have family members who attended, or they have friends who attended Monroe County Community College. So we are the higher educational institution here in this county. We're the only one. And the research also shows that when our students leave us and transfer and go elsewhere, they outperform the native students at those institutions. And the majority of their credit hours also transfer. So and there are so many stories,
Yeah. One of the, it probably would be remiss for us to talk about this and not mention the job creation issues in terms of the college and the community. We have a challenging economy here in Michigan,
Yes.
and in Southeast Michigan particularly, and the college plays quite a role in helping to improve that.
Oh yes, we do a lot of workforce training. We have the Michigan New Jobs Training Program. We have several companies we've worked with in the past. We trained workers for Ventower. We are working now with Hanwha, a new company here in town. And there are actually companies that indicate that they moved to this county, to Monroe, because they knew there was a higher educational institution, that's Monroe County Community College, that will provide the training needs necessary. Many companies are not going to move into areas if there is no higher education institution in that area. And we serve that purpose here in this community. And we do training for many firms here. And then when you look at our campus, and you see that not only are we providing education, but we also provided the cultural and life enrichment programs here in this community. Look at our Meyer Theater. And we have so many programs there for individuals from this community to come on campus. Besides that, we have a couple of other programs, our diversity series, where individuals can come on campus and learn about what's happening, a current affairs series. Just last week, we had a discussion on Ebola. And next week, we have one on the NFL and violence against women. So what's happening, and if it's happening in the world, anywhere, and we've had the discussions on ISIS and others, and I think one of your groups, the Agora Chorale, was involved in one of those discussions recently. I forget which one it was.
Yeah.
But
well, the Agora sponsored a board of candidates forum for the Board of Trustees, and that was one of those things to bring people on campus to learn about what's going on in the community.
So it's about education, edification, and illumination. That's what we do at Monroe County Community College. We enrich lives.
Well, in the early returns, and of course they're very early, so it's hard to speculate, the levy or the millage is actually trailing a little. So I hope that you can stay with us a while, and so maybe we can come back and and revisit the results after we have a better idea of which way it's going. So, but I thank you very much for joining us in the studio.
Yes, we feel positive about it. When I come back, you'll find that we will be trending ahead.
Okay. Bob, back to you.
That's confidence for you.
Thanks, Dan, and we're back now to take a look at some more results. I'm now joined on the anchor desk by Matt Evans, one of our fine seniors at Monroe High School, one of our fine writers, and a gentleman who has already logged time as a weatherman on Channel 24. So we've got an experienced veteran here, even though he's not even old enough to sign up for the service yet. But we're glad he's with us, and he's going to help us share some of the results that we have. So let's, we now have 8 of the precincts in from Monroe County. Since we last talked to you and we had Raisinville and Summerfield, we now add Ashe and Ida. And so that being said, here's the results that we have for governor in Monroe County. Rick Snyder continues to lead Mark Schauer by a 2319 to 2033 score. That's my other life. And then let's look at the Senate race. This still continues to be very close. These figures don't seem to be moving, but Gary Peters, 1029, Terry Lynn Land, 1015. I understand that statewide, Congressman Peters is really opening up a lead on Mrs. Land. We now look at the U.S. Congress. These are Monroe County figures only, with Tim Walberg, Congressman Tim Walberg leading the challenger Pam Burns by 1158 to 835 score. That is in Monroe County only, and it's a little bit tighter when you add in those numbers from Lenawee County. We continue on now with the Michigan Senate race. These are Monroe County numbers only. Dale Zorn continues to lead Doug Spade in Monroe County by a 1,222 to 863 vote count. Now, as we had mentioned to you earlier, when you add in the 11 precincts from Lenawee County, that's considerably tighter because Doug Spade is outpolling Dale Zorn by about 400 in Lenawee County, as Dale Zorn is outpolling Doug Spade by 400 in Monroe County. So this might be one to not go to sleep on yet, folks. This looks like it's going to be pretty tight right to the end. We continue now. Let's take a look at the State Representative 56th District, and let's introduce Matt Evans.
Yes, well, the state representative for the 56th District, the first candidate, Tom Redmond, a Democrat, currently has 994 votes, and Jason Shepard, the Republican, has 1034. So Jason Shepard leading by just 40 votes.
Let's take a look now at the probate court race. This is the 4-year term for probate court, and Matt, you want to do us the honors again?
Yes, for the probate court, Jill Lavoie currently has 1,498 votes, while Cheryl Lohmeyer has 2,185. So Lohmeyer, is opening up a rather substantial lead at this point.
And we now go to another district court. We go across the hallway to the 1st District Court, and we see those updated numbers. And actually, those are what we had reported to you just a little bit ago. Jared Calkins at 949 votes, Mark Bronlick at 808. Now, this is very important, even though Judge Bronlick is not running for this seat because he's been appointed to a circuit court seat. It's very, very important for Jared Calkins to poll the most votes. And that's because if he doesn't and Mark Bronlick wins this, then this puts this race into something where the governor would appoint who would sit in that 1st District Court seat. And so Jared Calkins faces the possibility that he might run 2 races, spend 2 races full of money, and not win. And so it's very important for him to be the top vote getter for 1st District Court tonight. We continue on looking at the Monroe County Community College trustee race, and I do think these are newer numbers. You want to take a look at these for us, Matt?
Sure. Well, currently, William Bronlick has 1,111 votes, Lynette Beller with 835, and Mary Kay Thayer with 859. And then in 4th, 5th, and 6th place, we have Ignacio Sucia with 562 votes, Jack Schwab with 570 votes, and Barbara J. Vren with 663 votes at this point.
And we take a look now at the Monroe County Community College 1 mill property tax. The no votes are 1,547, and the yes votes 1,075. And that's what we have to this point. Let's look at some of the county board races now. We haven't looked at those yet, and I do know that we have some figures in. on the County Board of Commissioners. So let's look at District 1. I know some figures are in on that, on the Huffman-McBee race. And there we are. David Huffman, the Republican incumbent, leading by a 182 to 140 margin. I think we have some District 2 numbers also. Yes, we would. And that might almost be a final. I'm not quite sure what all precincts go into that, but 1,600 votes out there might be pretty close to being final. Mark Brandt, the Republican, who I believe was Raisinville supervisor at one time, is leading, or possibly has even defeated, the Democrat Rico Perez, 1052 to 677. We also should have some District 3 totals here because I know we have Ash Township in. Well, we must not have entered those yet. Let's look at District 4, which I bet we don't have anything in, or District 5, I bet we don't either, knowing where those districts are, being that they are in the Frenchtown and in the city. District 6, of course, is Jerry Oley. That's an uncontested race, so there will be nothing there. District 7, do we have LaSalle in yet? No, we do not. And District 8, I would bet not, because we don't have the Bedford stuff in yet. And of course, Henry Levin's out in Whiteford, and Summerfield is running unopposed out in District 9. So we want to remind you that you are watching election results on the election 2014 here on MPAC, and watching across the world on YouTube. And Matt, what do you think about your big debut here? All your friends are being able to watch you on social media.
Well, that's correct. It's a very good experience for me, and it's actually the first time I've been on television in about 3.5 years. So
now you and your partner, you and Tyler went out to Raisinville tonight.
That's correct.
And you were the first ones in. I tell you, Janet Keenline out there must have had that ship just really ship-shape today.
That's correct. They did a really nice job at Raisinville to get us our results very quickly and very efficiently. They ran things very well over in Raisinville.
We're really glad to have you and Tyler, and we have 8 other students who are helping out. We have several here in the studios, plus we have students at LaSalle, we have students at the city of Monroe, and we have students at Monroe Township. So we expect to be hearing in from them soon, and as soon as we hear from them, we will get those numbers in to you. So anyway, that's where we are at this point. And if we could go to a one-shot here, we will reintroduce Dan Shaw to come here as we take a look at some more statewide figures. And the vote is coming in a little bit slower tonight than what we have seen in some recent past. And I think, Dan, a lot of that has to do with the fact that there are so many write-in candidates for school board. In fact, when we were debating whether or not to have the school board numbers as part of our election results, we decided not to do that because there are so many write-ins that we might never ever get to that point. So for those of you who might be dialing in to get school board numbers, unfortunately we're not going to have them because there's just too many. Monroe itself, Monroe Public Schools, has 3 and only has 1 living candidate on the ballot.
Yeah, and I think, if I can, an advertisement for school boards here for a moment. It really troubles me that we have races for an important local position like school board with no candidates, and so we have to rely on write-in candidates to fill those. As a journalist, I've covered school boards for, seems like 100 years, but probably close to 40 anyway, and they really do important business. They do the business of ensuring that our education dollars are used well and effectively and efficiently, and that important building block of a great community, a good education system, is maintained.
Yes.
So we need quality
with less
people.
money.
Well, right.
Less money
and as efficiently and smartly as is possible. Mm-hmm. That's their job. We need good people on our school boards, and I have tremendous respect for the people who step forward and are willing to do that kind of work, because it's sort of God's work. It's the important local work to make your community a better place.
And it's not just, before I started with Monroe Public Schools about 7 years ago, I didn't realize, I thought school boards just got together on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month, and that was it. It's not it. It's all the time. There's committee meetings and all kinds of subcommittee meetings, and you've got to go to the band concerts, you got to go to the football game, I mean, all those kinds of things. So it's almost a full-time job for some
and
folks.
you know, it's my journalism career has taken me to lots of communities around the country, and I've been able to see school boards function in very effective ways and in pretty ineffective ways. And you can see the difference. A community that has a quality school board tends to have a quality school system, and a community with a quality school system tends to have a higher quality of life for all the residents in the community. And I really think that there's fewer jobs that are more important at the local level than school board. And so when I see write-in candidates, because there's only, I think Monroe only has one candidate for 3 positions.
Yes, and 3 write-ins, but still, you have to know who the write-in is. It's not there on the ballot.
Yeah,
so.
right. So it's but so you know, back to your point, we're not going to have results because it's just too complicated to figure out how to do that tonight. Sure. But I apologize for my kind of long advertisement for school boards, but I really do think that they're important.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that has changed, a lot of people don't realize it, that school boards now are voted every other year on the general election, whereas they always used to be in the spring, but as a way to save money, so you don't have to have people vote in the spring, they're now as part of general elections, which brings out more people to vote. But I know from a school administrator standpoint, a lot of times you get people voting who might not be familiar with the candidates, and sometimes it's you can get all kinds of different combinations coming in on school boards. So, Dan, you've got your computer fired up there. Do we have some state results?
I just want to kind of update on some of the other results. As I mentioned before, Governor Snyder has been declared the victor in the governor's race, and Gary Peters will be our next senator. But I think a lot of people
Let's go home.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people are watching the national race for the U.S. Senate more closely than almost anything else, because that's really what's going to, at a national level, make the most difference in kind of how our country moves forward. If the Republicans control both the House and the Senate for Barack Obama's last 2 years, well, we've had stalemate as it was. I mean, that's really probably a recipe for stalemate. At this point, according to USA Today, which is monitoring these results nationally, Republicans have won 45 seats and the Democrats 42. And as you know, 51 is what it takes to have a majority. Currently, the Democrats have 55. So the Republicans need to win 6 to get to that 51 number. 2 of the races that they were looking to win, they have. And so
The Republicans.
The Republicans have. So of those 6, 2 are pretty much in the bag, and others are playing themselves. Those, by the way, are Arkansas and Kentucky, that both went to Republicans in states that could have gone either way. So as it's playing itself out, I think it's going to be very likely a 50-50 or a 51-49, and it could go either way at this point. And so for political junkies, it's a pretty interesting situation tonight, and I have a feeling that some people will be up late before they really know the final results of who controls the U.S. Senate.
And some of them may be in Monroe County. Because we still don't have, here it is 10 o'clock, poll's been closed for 2 hours. We still don't have some of the, what I would consider smaller townships that have reported yet. And I gotta believe it's some of the write-ins that are probably holding that up.
Yeah.
Dan, for the folks who are just joining us now, let's take another run through what the results we have. I know they're updating them now, and it does look like some of the numbers might have changed. So there we go. You're going to see on your screen in just a moment Monroe County totals for governor. Rick Snyder, who has been declared the winner statewide, leading Mark Schauer with 2319 to 2,033 votes. In the United States Senate race, another one where it's been declared statewide, but we see Monroe County is kind of turning their back on that, in that Gary Peters is actually trailing Terry Lynn Land in Monroe County by a 2196 to 1994 vote count. We now go on to the congressional race, which is Tim Walberg and Pam Burns. And I think Tim Walberg was probably, Dan, one of the pretty close to a sure bet to be returned to Congress, especially the way the district was laid out. And if Monroe County figures are anything like the rest of the district, quite possibly that could probably be declared by some
Yeah.
folks pretty soon.
Yeah,
would
I think
imagine.
it's likely, and it's again, I don't want to get on a soapbox, but it's one of the things that a lot of people are concerned about is that the redistricting, not just here in Michigan but across the country, has made it so too many Democrats are in safe districts and too many Republicans are in safe districts, and so not very much is left to be voted on
Right.
when it comes to election day. I think that there was the Free Press mentioned that in all of the congressional districts in Michigan, only about 4 of them are really in play.
Sure.
The rest of them are controlled by the Republicans or controlled by the Democrats. And there's a movement, and I don't know how much speed it's going to get over the next couple of years, but there's a movement beginning in Michigan to create some kind of a commission to redo the way we district for our congressional races, so that maybe we can get them back to something that seems more like logical districts instead of gerrymandering all the Republicans in one and all the Democrats in another, so that they're all in safe districts.
But let's see if that ever happens.
Yeah,
Remember,
right.
the same guys who are voting on that are the ones who are protected by that. So
Yeah.
we've got some more results to pass along to you. You probably see them on the screen behind me, which is now full screen for you. But we'll go to the state Senate race. And the updated numbers we have here now, these are Monroe County numbers, and this is very, very interesting. In that Doug Spade now leads Dale Zorn by a razor-thin margin of 3370 to 3355. Now, we're not quite sure how many precincts that includes. We had been reporting 8, but that looks like more than 8 precincts. But in this reading, at least for now, Doug Spade has moved ahead of Dale Zorn in Monroe County voting. Let's take a look now at the 56th State House District. It's the Shepherd and Redmond race. We don't have anything in yet from the Londo-Lavoie race. These figures still have not changed for a while. It's Jason Shepherd 1,034 to Tom Redmond's 994. And that was, I'll tell you what, Dan, that was a surprising race to me in that there was so much television time that was bought. Now, I don't know, maybe because I watch these offbeat cable channels that it's cheap to buy that time, but I couldn't get over how many ads I saw. They weren't bought by Jason Shepherd, and they weren't bought by Tom Redmond. They were bought by the Republican and Democratic parties. But I could not get over how much advertising I saw.
And
on
it wasn't
television.
and it wasn't just television, because the direct mailers in that race were also extensive. And I know how much it costs to do a full color direct mailer to all the people in that district. It's a lot of money being spent, and it seemed like I was getting one every few days. You know, and so and the signs along the roads, they're extensive in that race. So I don't recall a state rep race that had that much money spent in it, and just that much energy generated.
Yes.
You know, in one race.
Yes.
It's part of it. It kind of is the politics of today. You know, more and more money, sometimes money from outside the district, being spent on these kinds of races.
In fact, I think a lot of the money, especially in the late part of the races, with the Zorn Spade race, that was outside money. Because I know both those guys, and they would never say what was said in those ads about their opponent. But it was in those ads because those were ads that had been from the state Republican Party and state Democratic Party.
Yeah, well, and to a degree, you can kind of tell the really nasty attack ads that you get, whether it's on television or in a mailer or whatever, tend to not be the ones coming from the candidates.
Right.
The candidates that way can say, I didn't do that.
Yeah, not authorized by my committee.
Yeah, and yet there's been some pretty nasty attack ads in virtually all of the races this year, and most of them paid for by regional and national bodies.
Let's take a look now at, if we may, let's take a look at the county board races. Control room, if we can get to the county board races. Okay, I understand those are being updated even as we speak. So let's oh my gosh, the Monroe County Community College trustee race is being updated. So we're going to remind you that you're watching us on Monroe Public Access Cable Television. You also are listening to us on local radio, and we are on YouTube. So the world is our audience tonight. Dan?
So we're waiting, while we're waiting for those to be updated, let me tell you that although we don't have them on our slide yet, we do have a couple precincts with the Bill Lavoie Charles Londo race. And at just a couple precincts, Bill Lavoie has 536 votes to Londo's 395.
Okay.
So it's in very early results from that. And we'll get more from that, I'm sure, soon.
Okay. Now I see that we do have the updated figures for the Monroe County Community College trustee race. And the top three above the leaderboard remain the same, with 12-year veteran William Bronlick with 2,049 votes. Mary Kay Thayer was 1,624. She also has been on the board a number of years, I think almost 20, as I recall. And Lynette Dowler going for the third spot with 1,479 votes. She is a DTE Energy executive. The other top vote getters are Barb Barron with 1,138, Jack Schwab with 999. Come on, somebody vote for Jack, put him into the 1,000 mark. And Ignacio Kucha with 935. If we have those updated figures, let's take a look now at the Monroe County Community College levy, and we'll see, there we are. Those figures seem to be running pretty much the same all night. 1,547 no to 1,075 yes. And I know that we have gone through the county board races, but if we could call those up again, please. Let's start with the District 8, because I know the way we have there, we got, okay, nothing in yet on that. District 7, probably not. Let's go up to District 5. Okay, nothing yet on that. That's Frenchtown and some parts of the city. Okay, District 4, that also is Frenchtown. District 3. District 3 going once. Okay, we don't have those in, and we should have those figures because I know we've got the Ash Township figures in. District 2, okay, those figures have not changed. Brant 1052 to Perez 677. And then District 1, those figures have not changed for a while yet either. David Hoffman at 182 and Jeremy McBee with 140. So Dan, we're at a point now where I have a hunch we are starting to see the effect of the write-ins, holding some of the final totals coming out, and kind of what we had expected. Although I promised a lot of Monroe High School parents that those kids would be home pretty soon. So please, please, township clerks, release your results so the kids can go home. They got to get up and be in class tomorrow at 7:15.
Well, it is, you know, and I know, because we've both been through a lot of elections, that there's no predicting election results.
That's really funny when the kids said, well, Mr. Vergils, how long will it take? You know, when will I be done? I said, when you get the last number.
So for much of my career, as you can imagine, as a newspaper editor, there's a deadline. The presses have to start at some point, not too long after midnight. So much of my career was spent sweating over, can we get the final results in time to get the press started on time? And not starting the press on time isn't an option. So, you know, every once in a while you have to go to press without having those final results. And,
years ago when the Monroe News would print late in the morning, would go to print late in the morning when they had their own printing plant. Many were the nights we'd be up all night long, and you'd no sooner get your results. I remember calling Pete Beatrice at 12:30 in the morning after he'd been beaten. That was not a cool thing to do, right, Pete? I'm sure you're watching tonight. And I don't know who did it with more trepidation, me calling him or him answering the phone and finding out who was on the other end of the line. But many were the times.
Yeah,
it was an all-night thing.
One of the things I was the managing editor of the Monroe News for 3 years. So for 3 years, that would probably be 3 elections at least, and maybe some others of the off-season ones. I went through that process, and it's fascinating because somebody stays up all night, and others get up really early, and they cross over. You know, so people might start work in the afternoon and work till 3 or 4 in the morning, while others are coming to work at 3 or 4 in the morning and working all day. And it's quite a handoff that goes on in the middle of the night when you're doing that.
But everybody likes to do it. Everybody complains about it, Dan, but everybody says, you know, this is why I got into this.
Yeah. I could probably tell you stories from almost each of the 35 years or so of elections that I've covered over the course of my career, because they all stick in your mind. Every one of them is interesting. There are important things that are going on. Some of them confound you. It's like, how could the voters do that? And others, it's like, yeah, this was good.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
And of course, no one's going to agree with all of it. Again, as I said as we began this show, it's part of the miracle of democracy in America. And it's something we have a right to be proud of. At the same time, we're a little worried about it because the voter turnout isn't what it should be. The number of candidates from the local races isn't what it should be. So we should be worried, but at the same time, pretty darn proud that this works.
It does work, and we get to see it seemingly more often. I'm going to ask the control room now and speak into my ear. Now, the people at home won't be able to hear this, but do we have some updated results to pass on? That would be a negative. Okay. Well, let's go back and we'll take a look starting at the governor race for those of us who may be joining, because we realize that when there's election results, there's people coming in and out all the time. As we had mentioned earlier, the statewide race that Rick Snyder has been declared the winner. And in Monroe County, these figures have pretty much stayed the same for a while, 23-19 to Showers 2,033. Also for United States Senator, no surprise here on a statewide level that Gary Peters has been declared the winner. However, in Monroe County, as Dan said, sometimes voters confound you. Terry Lynn Land is leading 2196 to 1994 in Monroe County, but I think it's probably because you have a lot of the rural Republican communities that are in now.
Yeah, and as you well know, Monroe County is like every other community in the country. Where you live in the county makes a difference of what the likelihood you're going to vote is. And so there are pockets of Republican voters and pockets of Democratic voters. And you can easily get a precinct in that's largely Republican that skews those numbers for a while, and then you get a Democrat one in that skews them back. So I suspect that by the time the night's over, Gary Peters will, if not have won in Monroe County, at least be closer than that. At least
I'm sure. That was quite an ugly race early. With all of the accusations about who polluted more and who took more money from the polluters. In the congressional race, we have Tim Walberg, the incumbent Republican out of the Jackson area, continuing to lead Pam Burns by a 35-42, 28-86 count. State Senate, that is well, now they have Dale Zorn 2660 to Doug Spade's 1630. That has changed considerably from the last time we had it, where Doug Spade was listed as having more votes.
Yeah, and I think that what's happened here is this doesn't include the Lenawee County votes, and the slide we had before did, and I'm not sure how we managed to pull that off.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because that's what pushed them both up over 3,000.
Yes.
The Lenawee County votes.
And we have been exchanging information with Lenawee County, with WLEN. We haven't gotten any from our tabulators in a little bit, but we had been getting it quite regularly early on. In the Michigan House races, I don't believe we have anything in 17 yet, but Jason Shepard and Tom Redmond, rather spirited race, 1,948 for Shepard, and for Redmond, 1,701. Continuing on with some of the districts that we have after that, Monroe County Probate Court. Let's see, there we are. Those figures have pretty much, in fact, that percentage has pretty much remained pretty central throughout the night. Cheryl Lohmeyer, who was appointed to the job in this, actually earlier this year, with a 2185, 1498 lead over Jill Lavoie for the 4-year Monroe County Probate Court seat. Now the 6-year seat, Frank Arnold has that, but he's running unopposed. So that's why, in case people are dialing in and wonder why we don't have that, that's why. We also take a look at the 1st District Court, and that is the Calkins race, which has Braunlick also in it, although not as an active candidate. And the last report we had, and we should be seeing that slide momentarily, is that Jared Calkins was indeed leading the in that, and that's very important that he wins, because if he doesn't get more votes than the guy who's not running, the governor steps in and appoints somebody.
Yeah, and I think that that is, it's an issue we have in politics in America, that name recognition is a big thing. If people walking into the voting booth don't know what else to do, they pick the name that they know the best, and Bronlick's a very well-known name in this county.
Yes.
As we noted earlier, William Bronlick is leading the voting for the Monroe County Board of Trustees. And so I think it'd be a shame if we had to turn that over to the governor to make an appointment, if we have a chance to elect someone here in our own county. But that's what had happened. The governor would make the appointment if Gerald Calkins doesn't win it.
Now, it's interesting, State Representative Bill Lavoie has introduced legislation that would change that, so that this would be the last time something like that potentially could happen. I don't believe that legislation has been passed yet, but who knows what happens once you get in the lame duck session of the legislature. Really strange stuff happens. So you just don't know if indeed that will be changed. But kudos to State Representative Lavoie, who has introduced that bill. I keep seeing slides come up here. I don't know if the numbers are changing.
Well, while they're updating those,
Okay, they are being updated now. We're
Let me tell you that I do see that the Monroe News is reporting more updated numbers than we have on the Monroe Community College millage, and so we can pass those along. Still, these are pretty early, but the no votes are continuing to lead, and actually expanded a little bit. It's 2,886 against to 1,952 for. Okay. So again, we don't know where those have come from within the county, but that is a trend that seems to be expanding from the numbers that we had earlier.
Okay, as we understand, they are updating some of the numbers for us. This is always that awkward time when we're waiting for everything to kind of be ready to go. But we're glad that you're with us with our election results tonight. And Dan, I'm going to have to step away in just a couple of minutes here and call some of our correspondents and see how we're doing at some of the different places. I get a little worried because these are school children, and we don't want them to stay too late, but if you talk to them, they'll stay there all night.
Sure.
Mom and Dad won't totally agree with that, but...
Well, and I think I'm just really grateful that we have high school students that are part of this process, and then we have college students that are part of the process. And I don't worry about the college students as much staying out late because they do anyway.
They don't start at 7:15 in the morning either.
Right, exactly. But it's good that you're concerned about their parents, because I'm sure their parents are concerned.
Good news, Christmas has come early. We have updated figures. So let's start with the governor's race again. Once again, as we tell you that across the state, that Rick Snyder, incumbent Governor Rick Snyder, has been declared the winner, and that in Monroe County, he also, his vote totals are higher than Mark Schauer, 3166 for Snyder, and for Schauer, 2851. Now, unfortunately, I haven't been able to step away for a little bit because we haven't had any interviews, so I don't know what townships and government areas this represents. But as you can see, the totals are starting to widen a little bit. In United States Senate, also declared the winner across the state, Gary Peters. But look at that, interestingly enough, in Monroe County, Terry Lynn Land has opened up a lead to about 400 and some votes over Gary Peters. But again, he has been declared the winner across the state.
And by the way, the statewide total is about 54% for Peters and 43% for Land. So it's almost exactly flip-flopped of what it is here in Monroe County.
Continuing on, the U.S. Congress race, Tim Walberg is continuing to lead Pam Burns with a 34-57 to 22-35 score. That also, Dan, is that's a lead that has expanded. Since the last time.
And I can tell you that with roughly still a very small number of precincts in statewide, Walberg is leading 58% to 37%. Yeah. So a similar kind of a lead to what
that pretty much
he has here.
Bears out the Monroe County the numbers. So once again, we want to thank you for being with us. We're continuing to update numbers. I understand that those are the updated numbers that we have at this point, but I see on our screen that some numbers are being updated, so perhaps we will have those very, very shortly. And Let's see, we'll wait till we get those. They're typing on bloody stubs. I know that with the figures coming in. Hopefully also someone will get me the Lenawee County figures that we can share. I understand we're probably still sharing information with WLEN and Adrian, but no one has supplied those up here on the front desk yet. So.
Well, so while we wait for some of the local results, let me update you on the national issue.
Okay.
It's still a long ways to go because obviously the polls haven't even closed on the West Coast. So when you're talking about national elections, it takes longer. But the Republicans now have more Senate seats in the next Senate than they have currently. They have won 46 seats. They have 45 now. So they're, and the Democrats have 42 seats so far. So Republicans are leading nationally with 46 to 42. Those swing states that really matter, many of them haven't been called yet. So so it's not to say the Republicans can claim victory yet, but it certainly looks like they're going to be very close to potentially claiming control of the Senate.
Well, it's 10:16 in the Eastern Time Zone, which means that half the country's probably still voting.
Yeah.
West of the Mississippi.
Yeah, and I because I grew up in Oregon. I'm from Oregon originally, and so I'm a West Coast person, and I know how frustrating it was to be driving to the polls at say 7:30 and have they already called the election.
Yeah.
How can you do that? And they've toned back a little bit now. They tend to not call the national elections until the polls have closed on the West Coast, but it's usually at 8:01 on the West Coast. 11:01 here that they start calling those national races.
Yeah, they don't wait long. They do not wait long.
Yeah.
I understand that we have some updated figures now. Are those ready to go live, control room? Hearing none. There we are. There's an update in the 1st District Court race. It's Jared Calkins now with 2,035 votes. Mark Braunlake, a non-campaigning, and please don't vote for me because I don't want the office. Mark Braunlake, 1,996 votes. Do we have an update in the probate court? Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, the difference between the two candidates is pretty much remaining the same, a 700 vote difference between Cheryl Lohmeyer and Jill Lavoie, with probate judge Lohmeyer 3,015 votes to 2,053 for Jill Lavoie. Our next race would be for 56th District State Representative, and this one has kind of remained in Jason Shepard's care pretty much all night, and it appears that it still is 2862 to 2408 for the Democrat Tom Redmond. Now let's see if we still don't have Frenchtown in the city in yet. Okay, now these are Michigan Senate numbers. These are updated numbers from Monroe County only. Dale Zorn, the Republican, vying to replace his friend Randy Richardville. Dale Zorn with 4108 in the vote total. Doug Spade with 2,443 votes. And for Congress, Tim Walberg, again 3457 to Pam Burns 2235. That is in Monroe County voting only. And as you may well imagine, because it's Congress, there are several counties involved in that particular race. So even though it's pretty commanding on this leg of the district, I'd say by Tim Walberg, we can't really say because we don't know what the other figures are elsewhere. So.
Yeah, but I can say that the Detroit Free Press and other statewide websites are reporting that Walberg has won.
And that's really no secret. I mean, no surprise, I should say, because he has been in the Congress for a while and a well-known name, and really Mrs. Burns wasn't known over here, and Tim Walberg has spent a lot of time over here lately.
Yeah, and I think to Tim Walberg's credit, he has spent time here in the eastern end of his district.
Right.
He's from over by Jackson, and he's certainly well known there. But he's gotten around the district, and he's been at Monroe County Community College several times, and so he's getting to know his district and developing rapport with this part of the district as well.
Sure. Dan, I see we have a guest has returned, Dr. Corte. Would you like to take a few moments and get some of his thoughts while we
Sure.
while we take a look at some of the vote results in Monroe County voting now. The Monroe County Community College levy numbers that we have are just now being updated, and we should have those in just a moment for you. Okay, here is what they are. The no votes 2886, the yes votes 1952. So that difference seems to be widening a little bit in the Monroe County Community College 1 mil levy. Other votes that we have to pass along to you, let's take a look at the Monroe County Community College trustee race, if we have some updated totals there. And we will have some updated totals in just a moment, as I see. They're just now adding the totals for Bill Bronlick, and we should have that momentarily. And indeed, now we do. Control room, was he the first one to be updated? I think he's the first one to be updated, so we won't go to that slide quite yet. We won't go to that slide quite yet, but to tell you about that race throughout the evening, it has been Bill Bronlick, it has been Mary Kay Thayer, and it has been Lynette Dowler, who have been the top 3 vote getters pretty much all night long in all the precincts that we've had come in, and they're now starting to distance themselves. Bill Bronlick has had pretty much a commanding lead all night. Mary Kay Thayer also, who's been on the board a number of years, very well known, not only in the South County where she's from, but throughout the rest of Monroe County as well. And then Lynette Dowler, who is an executive at DTE Energy. And I understand now that we do have the updated figures for the Monroe County Community College trustee race, and here they are. Bill Bronlick, now with 2,703 votes, Mary Kay Thayer, 2,204, and Lynette Dowler with 1,950. Those are the top 3 vote getters so far, and there are 3 open seats that the 6 candidates are vying for. The other 3 candidates in order are Barb Varon with 1,492 votes, Jack Schwab with 1,305, and Ignacio Kucha with 1,188. So that's where we are with the Monroe County Community College Board of Trustees race. And I think Dan is ready with his guest. So let's head on over to Dan and Dr. Corte.
So we're back with Dr. Jose Corte, the president of Monroe County Community College. Dr. Corte, before we get to the millage, let's talk a little bit about those Board of Trustees results that we just looked at. It looks like William Bronlick and Mary Kay Thayer, the 2 incumbents, are winning re-election, and it looks like Lynette Dowler is likely to be the person that joins them. So do you have any thoughts on the trustees race?
Well, any of the trustees would be a great individual. They would all be great to work with, and Bill Bronlick, and Mary Kay Thayer certainly have been great incumbents since my year and a couple of months here. And Lynette Dowler, I know her well. She's also worked well. She worked for DTE, worked very well with the college. And so, well, it may be still a little too early to call yet, but it looks as if they're well ahead, and it'd be great to work with any of them.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the students on the Agora, the student newspaper at Monroe County Community College, sponsored a candidates forum where we listened to all of the candidates, and they all had that kind of passion about the college.
Yes, they all have a passion for the college. They all care about the college. They are all very interested and concerned about education in this county because, as I said earlier, that's what's going to take this county to the next level.
Okay, well, so transitioning from that, talking passion about the college,
Yes.
In the very early returns, and they're still early, but the trend is growing that there are more no votes than yes votes. So maybe it's time that we at least raise the issue. If this doesn't pass, what does it mean for the college?
Well, yes, we are trending behind a bit here. The gap appears to be growing. I'm not sure exactly which precincts are in at this point, Dan. But what this means for us, if it doesn't pass, is there are certain programs that we cannot retain and maintain. There are certain positions that we will not be able to fill. There are certain accreditations for certain areas that we cannot get at this point. And essentially, it's going to not only put the college behind in terms of where we want to go with facilities and other amenities, but the entire county would be behind, so to speak. And so it's certainly there is some concern, but again, it is early in the game here. So there's still hope.
Yeah.
We can pull this out.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, my experience with elections, which goes back a long time, is that they tend to ebb and flow.
Yeah.
And there tend to be results from some areas that are very different from results from other areas. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
But let's talk briefly here about the college was in a bit of an awkward position when it came to campaigning for a yes vote. Because, of course, college employees who are public employees can't do anything in their own time, or any time when they're working for the college, to be campaigning for or against a levy. So how did you work through that?
Yeah, that was a difficult situation. So we started out with an educational or informational campaigns, if you will. And so we couldn't go out and ask for a yes vote, or we could ask people to go out and vote, encourage individuals to go out and vote. I, for example, could not walk around campus going from class to class, as I did, and ask individuals to vote yes on this, and I couldn't. So in essence, we weren't able to campaign as vigorously as we wanted to. Mm-hmm. So we could provide information, encourage people to vote, but couldn't ask them to go out and vote yet until we formed the PAC. But even with the PAC, still, I could not go around and ask individuals to vote
college
yes.
employees.
So it put us in an awkward position.
Yeah.
Yes. College employees certainly couldn't do that also. And as a president who works 24/7, it was difficult to do. Mm-hmm. But there's still hope. It's not over yet. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how this turns out.
There was my experience was there was a tremendous amount of energy on the campus in terms of wanting to support this, because I still see myself as somewhat of an outsider, having come to the college 7 years ago after a career as a newspaper editor, and I was impressed with the quality of the education that was going on, the quality of the staff, but most of all, just the quality of the people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's good people there that really care about Monroe County.
It's a great institution, and that's why I have so much passion for it. It's a great county to be in. This is a great place to be, but many of our professors were not able to, in their classrooms, they weren't able to encourage their students to simply go out and vote yes. Good people at a great institution in a great county, and so we certainly hope that we'll keep going as an institution. This, again, it's not over, but as an institution, we've been here for 50 years, and we plan to be here for another 50 times 50 times 50 times 50.
Okay.
Well,
as the evening goes on, we'll continue to watch the election results, and we'll see how the millage vote turns out.
Yes.
So at this point, there's still only less than 4,000 people who voted, and so that's a small number based on the total that are likely to vote.
Yeah. I remain positive, Dan.
Okay.
We're going to keep going.
Well, while we while we're on the topic, let's. I'd like to get your views as a college administrator, as someone who is a international figure in that you were born in another country and have experience around the world. Yeah. What do you think about American politics, the American electoral system, the gridlock at the top? I mean, what's your perspective on all this?
Well, I've lived in 3 other countries, and there's no place like America, regardless of whatever the challenges are, regardless of what we think of this country. It's the greatest country in the world, bar none. There is no other country like these United States. And so there is gridlock at the top. There are challenges here, but nothing compared to what happens in other countries where elections may not be fair, but the elections here are always fair. Mm-hmm. They're always fair. You look at countries like what happened a few years ago in Kenya and a few years ago in Zimbabwe, where individuals had lost elections, but they refused to leave their positions. Yeah. You see, so that couldn't happen here in this.
We do lose sight at times as Americans of how blessed we are.
Oh yeah, we are blessed in this country. We really are.
Does the voter turnout number trouble you?
It does. It really does, and I'm not sure why more voters didn't turn out. Again, there was inclement weather today, but. Again, we're not sure exactly how many voters turned out because all the precincts are not in. So we'll see what happens. Okay. But it does trouble me.
it does trouble me that not a lot of voters turned out in this election.
Yeah, we have this precious right in America to vote, and everyone doesn't exercise that right.
Yeah, I talk about that all the time, especially when I go into classrooms. And the United States gained independence in, 1776? And you take women, for example, they did not get the right to vote until 1920. What's that, 144 years later? And so, and for people like me who are African American or, of African origin, there are people who died to get us the right to vote. And many of us still don't exercise that right. It's our civic responsibility to go out and vote. And we're not exercising that. How do you have such a precious right, which individuals in other countries don't have, and you simply abuse it, for lack of a better expression? It really concerns me.
Well,
Things have got to change.
Thank you for that insight. I appreciate it. So, Bob, we'll send it back to you, and I hope that we can update some election results.
Dan and Dr. Corte, thank you very much. Yes, we're now joined at the anchor desk by Tyler Hammock, and Tyler's going to help me with some results. We're going to look first at the governor's race. The figures for Monroe County have pretty much remained the same. As you see, Rick Snyder, or you don't see yet, Rick Snyder with a 31-66 lead over Mark Schauer, 28-51 for Congressman Schauer. And of course, that race has been declared for Rick Snyder on a statewide level. Another race that's already been declared is for United States Senate, where Gary Peters has defeated Terry Lynn Land. However, Monroe County figures are such that Terry Lynn Land is leading Gary Peters, but for no avail, since that will be a victory for Congressman Peters. Let's take a look now at the U.S. Congress. That's Tim Walberg 34-57 to Pam Burns 22-35. So it looks like the incumbent Walberg will be returned. In fact, we know statewide he has been declared the winner in that contest. Continuing on, we now look at the Michigan Senate race, and these are Monroe County figures only. We expect that we'll be given some Lenawee County figures here in a moment. Dale Zorn, the Republican, with 4108 votes here in Monroe County only. Doug Spade, the Democrat, with 2443. Now, Tyler, we're going to take a look at the House races here, and no results from Frenchtown or the city, which is why we don't have any numbers there. But tell us about the 56th district.
So in the 56th district, Republican Jason Shepard has 2,862 votes, while Tom Redmond has 2,408.
And we continue on now. We'll take a look at the probate court race that is with Jill Lavoie and with Judge Lohmeyer. And Tyler, if you could do us the honors.
Yeah, Jill Lavoie has 2,053 votes, while Cheryl Lohmeyer has 3,015 votes. So.
And that difference of 700 votes has pretty much stayed pretty much static for at least the last couple of hours. And we now will look at the first district court race. And in this particular race, Jared Calkins with 2,035 votes to Mark Braunlake's 1,996 votes. It's just amazing to me that with all the publicity about Judge Braunlake not running for this seat, and he's already got a circuit court seat, 2,000 people still have voted for him already, and we've only got 10 precincts in. So let's take a look now at the Monroe County Community College trustees, and Tyler, tell us about that. Top three will be seated as trustees.
Yeah, the top three have stayed the same, with having William Braunlake at 2703, Lynette Dollar at 1950, Mary Kay Thayer at 2204, Ignacio Kucha at 1188, Jack Schwab at 1305, and Barbara J. Varan at 1492. And
the Monroe County Community College 1 mill levy property tax is going down pretty well right now. 2,886 no votes to 1,952 yes votes. We now have some more votes in, in the county board races, and we have some information in on races that so far we hadn't had anything yet. So let's take a look at those. We can start with, let's see, let's go back to District 7. That is LaSalle. Now we have the LaSalle numbers in. Gary Woolmoth, the Republican, with 971 votes, and Mike Miller, the Democrat, with 790. You see that it includes LaSalle Township, Erie Township, and we do have a representative at Erie Township tonight. We have not yet been able to hear from him. City of Luna Pier and the southern portion of Monroe Township. In fact, where I used to live before I moved into the city. And let's continue on looking at some of the other districts. We should have some numbers by the time we get up to District 2, I believe, yes. And those figures haven't changed for a while. Mark Brandt at 1,052, Enrico Perez at 677. And I know we have District 1 numbers, and David Hoffman with 1,022 votes to Jeremy McBee's 577 votes. So that's where we are at this point. And we didn't get a chance, Tyler, to talk to you about your experience, but we know that you were out at Raisinville with Matt earlier tonight, and you're not old enough to vote yet, I don't believe.
No,
right?
I'm not.
But what did you think about, you got a chance to be there and get a chance to see what they do to put all the votes together?
You know, it's pretty exciting seeing how everything, cogged together when it all went down. And when we got there and within 15 minutes, everything was there at our fingertips. So it was really an easy experience.
Yeah, I wish everybody would be having that easy experience tonight, but unfortunately that has not been the case for us tonight. So we want to thank you for being with us on Impact. We're not signing off. We're going to be here for a little bit yet. And I'm going to have to step out of the studio in one of these minutes because I've got to check on some of my student poll sitters to see if see why we've not yet heard from them. So we're going to have Tyler kind of swing out and Dan swing back in now. So on the anchor desk. So Tyler, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we appreciate your help. And next time we'll have to send you to more than just one precinct or more than one township because you did so well with Raisinville. You and Matt, you did that pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Welcome on in now to Dan Shaw as we continue our election coverage tonight. And it's been one of those times, Dan, where once you get, there's always that dry spell when you are waiting for big pushes. Like I know the Monroe Evening News website, or Monroe News website, will be including Bedford probably pretty soon. We have two of our people over at the city of Monroe, and we anticipate that some of those results will be in soon. In fact, I'm going to, like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to have to step out and probably see where they are. And
Yeah, it is that time of night when you're kind of waiting for those final votes to come in. It was difficult, I'm sure, during my conversation with Dr. Corte from Monroe County Community College because it doesn't look good for the college right now. And I just saw some new numbers that we'll have up here in a minute that look even worse. So it's down to kind of a 66-33 split with the no vote being pretty dominant. And so he really didn't want to talk as if it had failed yet, and I understood that because it's early, and yet it does look like it's going down to defeat at this point. And so folks at Monroe County Community College are going to have to do a lot of rethinking about how to handle that. And we'll probably get a chance to talk to Dr. Corte a little later, and if it does look like it's going down, then we'll be able to ask him a little bit more about what that means for the college.
my theory has always been if you could get every student who ever graduated from there to vote yes,
Yeah.
you'd never have to worry about that again.
Well, one of the things I know that as the college looked at whether or not to put a millage on the ballot, they did a survey of county residents, and the results were very positive. In a survey, people were willing to say, oh yeah, I would support an increased millage for the college. But as you know, and I know, and everybody who's ever been involved in politics knows, there's a big difference between what you tell a pollster and what you do when you get in the ballot box.
Sure.
And
That doesn't cost you anything to tell a
yeah,
pollster.
right, exactly. And you're raising your taxes to vote yes for that millage in the ballot booth, and that's a much more serious commitment than just a poll. And you know, it's going to be felt seriously by the folks at the college if this is defeated. We have new results coming in on the Board of Trustees, and we'll be able to show those to folks in a minute. But I think it looks pretty likely, based on the results at this point, that the two incumbents are going to be returned to the board. And that's an interesting irony, that voters are saying no to the millage, but they're saying yes to the incumbents on the board who put the millage on the ballot. And so it's an interesting little irony there.
Are those figures? No, they're not quite totally updated yet, but we're continuing to endeavor to get those, and I know our technical people are really kind of going as quickly as they can to get the stuff in. So, but I know sometimes for us when we have to dance out here for a little bit, we're dancing as fast as we can.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it's at least it's a fun dance because we're involved in election night.
Sure,
and that's an interesting thing.
I couldn't imagine not being involved in an election night somewhere. I couldn't be the person sitting at home watching. You know, you've got to be there for the action.
Yeah. Well, I will give you a chance to update voters on those additional figures that we have coming in, and I'll get ready to interview another guest. And so good luck with the results.
Thank you.
You're on your own with them.
Thank you very much. Let's take a look now at the results. We'll go back up at the governor's race, and indeed we do have some new figures for Monroe County. There I go. I'm looking at once again, Governor Snyder has been declared the victor in his race over Mark Schauer, and Monroe County figures seem to bear that out. 4,843 for Governor Snyder and 4,283 for Mark Schauer. Now on the Senate race, that's the United States Senate race, where Gary Peters already has been declared the statewide winner. In Monroe County, it's just defying what the rest of the state is doing. 4,557 votes for Terry Lynn Land in Monroe County and 4,009 for Gary Peters. Now, if you look at Congress, you can see there that you'll be able to see in just a moment that Tim Walberg has increased his lead in Monroe County, 5107 to 3521 for Pam Burns. And we continue. Let's take a look now at the state Senate race. Actually, in the Michigan Senate, we have Dale Zorn now. These are Monroe County figures only. 5,897 votes to 3,719 for Doug Spade. And the next slide that we will have here, the first results we have in for state representative in the 17th district. The incumbent, Democrat Bill Lavoie, with a 724 to 587 lead over Charles Londo, the Republican challenger. And speaking of Representative Lavoie, he has a special guest with him, and let's introduce them now. Dan?
So here I am with Bill Lavoie, who, as you just saw from the statistics on the screen, is leading in his race with Charles Londo for re-election to the State House. So Bill, how do you feel at this point?
And I feel pretty good. You know, I know what the base of the district is, and the numbers are bearing that out. So I feel pretty good about it.
Okay, so talk to us a little bit about what the key issues in this race. What were you campaigning on, and what were you hearing from voters?
I was hearing a little bit about road funding, although mostly with that was don't raise taxes, which I was a little surprised about, and try and find efficiencies to fix the roads. I think that it's going to be interesting. We'll see if road funding becomes an issue in lame duck, which will be coming up regardless of the election results for anybody. So we'll see how that goes. That was one of them. I was hearing a little bit about the negative campaigning, which I always think is interesting. Of course, I didn't do any negative campaigning. My opponent didn't either, to his credit, although I just want to say to everybody that it usually isn't the candidate who does it, it's the parties that do it, the state parties. And you have no knowledge of it. You have no sign off, you have no input on it whatsoever. I don't like it, but luckily my seat isn't as competitive as some of the other ones around here, so there wasn't much money dropped into it to do the negative campaigning.
So I guess we should consider that a good thing, that we didn't have to be bombarded with negative ads because of that.
I would say it's a good thing, but from an altruistic standpoint, and I really mean this, the way that some of these districts are drawn, mine included, they're almost drawn with prohibitive favorites. And I think that's a disservice to the voters. And I really feel that way. And I would really hope that in the future, possibly, that there could be something done to draw the districts a little bit more evenly from a political perspective.
Well, I mentioned earlier in our broadcast that I personally think there ought to be a nonpartisan commission to go at the redistricting situation in a different way, so that we don't get whoever wins every 10 years controlling the gerrymandering of the districts. And I think it's just not a good way to run a government. Do you think there's any chance that there could be the political will to do that?
I think there's a chance. The problem is the political party that's going to be in majority would be the ones who would have to agree to do it. And of course, when you're running things, you don't want to change it. So I think that's kind of a problem. But if you look at the next election cycle, when the 10-year mark for the redrawing of the districts, it's actually a presidential election year. So in that, there could be an opportunity for, I'm a Democrat and everybody knows that, for some leverage possibly to put forth if Republicans are still running the state to the same level they are, in a few more years. It's essentially 6 years from now. So, I'm term limited, so the most I can do is 4 more years. If I win tonight, I'll do 2 more, and then I have a third possible term if I win my next election 2 years from now. And then I'm done with the House, and I'll either do something else or decide to kind of move up the ladder, but I've made no decisions on that.
Okay, so let's go back to the roads a minute, because I think roads are really very much on people's mind. As you mentioned, that's what you heard. The governor has been criticized for failing to do anything with this, although he tried, to his credit. The House and the Senate both have been criticized for failing to do anything in this, although they've tried to a certain extent. Do you think the political will is there to make that happen in the next session?
I don't know, to tell you the truth. I would look for some possible minor changes in lame duck, which is coming up. It's awfully hard when you have people telling you, when you are hitting doors and talking to constituents at events, on the phone, and they say to you, don't raise my taxes.
Fix the roads, but don't raise my taxes.
Right, so it's kind of hard when there's not enough revenue already to do that. So, some plans have been floated. I don't know that just kind of taking the general fund money and earmarking it for something specific is the way to go. We have a lot of that already. And then what it does is it kind of handcuffs if you want to put more money towards education, say, and I know that's been a hot political issue too, whether there's been more money or less money or whatever. I haven't taken a position on that. I've said that there's less going to the classrooms, and I think that's justifiable and provable. But if you start to say, okay, we're going to put this amount of money towards road funding, then who gets less? Because it's one pie that's the state budget and one set of revenue, and if you give somebody a bigger piece of the pie, somebody's got to get a smaller one. There's no other way around it. So the easiest way, and possibly the best way, is to raise revenue, but that's taxes.
Okay, now I realize I'm talking to a Democrat who is in the minority in the state house. Do you have, number one, first, do you have any idea how it's going in terms of the House statewide yet tonight? And after that, how do you feel about your first 2 years in the legislature in the kind of...
I would say it's been, we'll start with how I feel. We'll start with the first part of the question. Midterms generally are not kind to the party that is opposite of the president. And that's from the top nationally all the way down to the state house races, the statewides, all of them. So in that perspective, it's going to be very hard, in my opinion, for the House of Representatives at the state level to flip. Also, you have to take into account that the districts were drawn a certain way back in 2010 to benefit the party that's in power now. So it's awful tough to work against those kind of things. There are several competitive districts that have shown to be competitive, and we'll see how they go. What it's looking like to me is it's not a 2010 Republican year, but it's not a 2008 or 2006 Democratic year either. So it's probably somewhere in the middle. In that case, all things being equal, more than likely the Republicans will keep control of the House. The Senate almost is impossible to be changed. And incumbency is a hard thing to beat. So I'm not surprised that, with the gubernatorial race, there were some high hopes with it. On the flip side, we can talk about, and I'm kind of going off the topic, I apologize, but I think Gary Peters is running away. I don't know if they've called it already or not. I haven't been watching that one.
Yeah, they have called it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that wasn't a shock to me. So candidates can make a difference with it, but it's awfully hard. The bases are the bases, the numbers are the numbers, and kind of the results as they come in are kind of just how they are.
Okay.
The second part you had said was how I feel after my first 2 years. It's tough being in the minority. It's almost like having a front row seat to the policy, and it isn't that you don't have any input on it. You do get some. You get it through the committee process and obviously through your votes. But to sit down and actually talk with some of the policy people, we have our own on our political party side. They have their own on theirs. They're running the agenda because they have the most votes. That being said, heavy is the head that wears the crown, and there's been complete Republican control for 4 years. If road funding was an issue, was high enough up on the priority list, I would think it would have been done by now. So I guess if the Senate is kept, the House is kept, and the governor is kept again, we'll see how serious they are about fixing the roads.
Okay, that's a fair comment. So Bob, let's turn it back to you. Thank you very much for spending some time with us, Representative Lavoie.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan Shaw, and thanks to State Representative Bill Lavoie. And we hope the numbers for Bill continue to be good tonight. And we hope that, in fact, it's interesting in his interview he had mentioned about how the clean campaign went, and that certainly was. And we congratulate both of those candidates for that. I have back with me Matt Evans again, and we're going to take a look at some of the new races, or shouldn't say new races, but new numbers in the races that we have. And we will start with the governor's race. We'll get that up there. Actually, I guess we're starting with the 56th District State Representative race. And we have Jason Shepard, the Republican, with 3,734 votes to 3,248 for Tom Redmond. Let's look at the 17th District State Representative race. That is Representative Lavoie's district. He is leading Charles Londo, the Republican challenger, by a score of 724 to 587 now. Let's go to the top of the ticket. Take a look at the governor's race here in Monroe County. As you know, and as we've been reporting for a couple of hours now, that Rick Snyder has been projected as the winner of the governor's race, being returned to his position for the next 4 years. In Monroe County, it's 48-43 for Rick Snyder and 42-83 for Mark Schauer. I'm going to turn it over to Matt now as we take a look at the U.S. Senate. Once again, Gary Peters has been declared the winner in the state, but Matt, looks a little bit different here in Monroe County.
Yes, that's right. While Gary Peters has been declared the winner for the U.S. Senator of Michigan, the numbers show otherwise here in Monroe County. Terry Lynn Land actually is leading right now in Monroe County with 45-57 votes versus Gary Peters with just over 4,000 votes.
We take a look now at the United States Congress, and Matt, once again, if you do the honors.
Sure. Well, right now, Tim Walberg is leading by a substantial margin here in Monroe County with over 5,000 votes, while his Democratic opponent, Pam Burns, has only 3,521 votes at this moment.
Let's take a look now at the Michigan Senate race, and in Monroe County, the distance is widening as Dale Zorn is leading Doug Spade now in Monroe County voting by a tally of 5,897 votes for Dale Zorn to 3,719 for Doug Spade. That's almost a 60-40 split, which is pretty sizable here on this side. We're going to take a look now at let's take a look at the 56th district. Let's see if we just did that one. Let's go to Monroe County Probate Court, if you will. And our vote totals now for Cheryl Lohmeyer, that's Judge Lohmeyer, 4529, and Jill Lavoie, 3158, her vote total. So we're going to go to First District Court now, and Matt, if you could do the honors.
Sure. Right now, in the First District Court of Monroe County, Jared Calkins is leading with 3,112 votes, while Mark Braunlick, who, as we heard, that is not actually running, but he's on the ticket, he has 2,870 votes. So Calkins is leading by a couple hundred at this point.
And we'll take a look now at the Monroe County Community College Trustees race, and that has not changed, although the top three vote getters have pretty much remained the same all night long. Bill Braunlick, a longtime member of that Board of Trustees with 4,072 votes. Mary Kay Thayer, another longtime representative on the Board of Trustees with 3,301 votes. And Lynette Dowler with 2,871. And the other top three are Barb Varon with 2,114, Jack Schwab, who you talked to earlier tonight, 2,030, and Ignacio Kucha with 1,830 votes. So that's where we stand on the Monroe County Community College Trustees. Now, we got some bad news for the college on the 1 mil levy. We'll take a look at that, and that is still being defeated by a wide margin. No votes, 4,739, and the yes votes, 3,097. We have some county board races now. I see that some of those numbers were different as we were going through, so let's take a look at them now. Let's see, on District 7, that is some recent numbers that we now have in. Gary Wilmoth with a 971 to 790 lead over Mike Miller. And that is out in the LaSalle area, Erie Township, Luna Pier, portion of Monroe Township, the southern portion of Monroe Township. I know that we also have results from the 2nd District, so let's take a look at that. In that race, Mark Brand at 1052, Rico Perez, the Democrat, at 677. And in District 1, David Hoffman, the Republican incumbent, with 1,022 votes, and Jeremy McBee with 577 votes in District 1. Now, I do know that we had our Monroe Township results. They just came in. So hopefully before we get to the end of the, or not hopefully, we will have them before we get to the end of the broadcast, because we do have them in here now. But we have a very special guest with Dan Shaw. And let's head over to Dan and say hello to Dan and to current state rep Dale Zorn. But Dale is standing in good stead, at least in Monroe County, for state senate. So Dan and Dale, we head over to see you.
Well, it's great to be here with Dale Zorn, who, according to the results, they're still preliminary, but it looks like he's winning re-election to his Senate seat. So, Dale, what do you think?
Well, it's good to be here with you tonight. It's been a journey that we started over 2 years ago, and it's taken us from Monroe County to Lenawee County, and it's been a great experience for Cindy and my wife and I. And you know, it's not about politics; it's about people, and it's not government that makes our lives better. It's the people that are working in their communities to make their community a better place, and it's just been a positive experience for us to be campaigning for the last 2 years, and but we always remember that Monroe County is our home, and it's always good to come back and be here.
So Dale, tell us kind of what were your high points on the campaign, the points that you were making to voters, and how were voters receiving them?
Well, I think the important part of our campaign is we wanted to get our plan out, our platform. And I'm not afraid to talk about my plan to move Michigan forward, to continue the recovery of Michigan. So many times candidates don't like to talk about plans, maybe they don't have a plan, but I do want to talk about that plan. And I'm the first one to say that maybe my plan isn't going to work, but it might be part of the solution. But I think that's why we have to listen to each other and come up with better ways on how to move Michigan forward. But I think the important part is the ability to have a plan, to have some basis of where we started, where we want to end up, and how we're going to get there. And my plan has provided a insight on how I think roads should be funded throughout the state, how education should go forward, and I think we should talk about those plans, those ideas.
So does moving from the House to the Senate change your role in terms of representing Monroe County?
No, I don't think it will. I think I've been fortunate that I don't stay in Lansing. I come home every day, and that keeps my feet firmly on the ground here in Monroe County. If I get home early enough, I can go to township meetings or go to organization meetings I've always belonged to. But at the end of the day, I'm always home. I'm always home with my wife, Cindy. And to me, that's very important for me to be home with her. But I don't think it's going to change the difference between the House and the Senate, because the House and the Senate does the same thing. There's a little more responsibility with the Senate as far as appointments, but the House and the Senate is the checks and balances of government in Michigan. So we do the same thing. We introduce bills and we debate those bills, and hopefully we pass a few along the way. But it'll continue that same direction of passing the bills back and forth. I think for me, it's going to be, the difference is going to be is learning the process, because their process is a little bit different than what the process of governing in the House. Take, for instance, in the House, sometimes you get anywhere from 5 minutes to a half hour to vote on a bill. In the Senate, when that bill comes up, you have 60 seconds. And if you don't vote on that bill in 60 seconds, you've missed a vote. And I'm happy to sit here tonight and tell you that in the 4 years that I've been in the House, I haven't missed a session day, nor have I missed a vote in 4 years. And I think that's very important for the people to know that, because you've sent me there to represent you. I take that responsibility very seriously. And I'm going to be there to make that vote, to debate the issues, so that the people back home know that they really have a representative from Monroe that does take it seriously and won't miss a session or a vote. Even when my wife fell and broke her shoulder this past summer, there was some important votes that needed to be taken. And the day that she was having surgery, I went to the hospital, or I went to the session to place those votes. And obviously, when I got a session, I went right to the hospital. But I think it's important for people to know that their representatives are there working for them and taking that job seriously.
Do you feel that if the Republicans, as it seems they will, continue to control the House and the Senate and the governor's position, that is putting extra pressure on you to find a solution to roads in this during this next session?
I don't think it puts any more pressure on. I think the pressure's been on for a long time to figure that problem out. I am confident that perhaps even yet in December, we will have some decisions made on some of the proposals for roads. And I'm hoping next year we can start that process all over again with the idea of coming up with a permanent fix. I think we all understand that Act 51 does not work anymore. It doesn't fund roads well. And my idea, what I've been passing during the campaign this year, has been to use 1 cent of the sales tax the current sales tax without creating any new tax. They use a little bit of the surplus funds that we see coming in because our economy is getting stronger. And then secondly, we have to understand that part of the sales tax that we have goes for schools and revenue sharing for local governments. And I would like to replace that money with expiring industrial tax credits on income tax. And I believe that we would have enough money to replace the revenue sharing money and the money that goes to schools.
Okay. We'll keep an eye on how that all develops over the next few months. Congratulations on your win, and we'll turn it back to you, Bob. How are we doing with results?
Thanks, Dan, and thanks, Representative Zorn. And we do have some results to pass along to you now. Let's. We do have some new numbers in, but we'll start at the top of the ticket again. Let's go to Governor this time, and we'll start. Well, maybe we won't quite start with the Governor, but we do have some figures to pass along to you from Lenawee County. Once again, from WLEN Radio, who is covering the Lenawee County portion of the districts that, or the races that are common between Monroe County and Lenawee County. Tim Wahlberg is leading Mrs. Burns by a 78-40 count to 57-56. That is in Lenawee County. And also Lenawee County numbers. This is, by the way, after 26 precincts in Lenawee County, which is, I believe, probably, what, about a third of what the precincts are, maybe almost a half. And in that polling there, Doug Spade leads Dale Zorn with a 71-63 to 69-25 count. That is Lenawee County only. Now, we're going to take a look at the Monroe County totals now. And I know that we were updating some totals, and it looks like they have been indeed updated. So if we may go back to the governor's race, we'll start there, and we'll take a look at that. In Monroe County, it was Rick Snyder 64-12 to 55-78 for Mark Schauer. Once again, Governor Snyder has been declared the winner, re-elected as governor of the state of Michigan. Gary Peters has been elected our new United States Senator, replacing Senator Carl Levin, 26-year veteran of the United States Senate. Those numbers are in Monroe County, 58-43 for Terry Lynn Land to 55-37 for Gary Peters. So interestingly enough, Monroe County figures are different from the rest of the state of Michigan. We're now going to look at those congressional figures. It's Wahlberg 6601 to Pam Burns 3521. And of course, you add those figures on from Lenawee County, putting Tim Wahlberg at roughly 14,000 votes to about 9,000, a little more than 9,000 for Pam Burns. We're going to look now at the Michigan Senate race. As we told you, Dale Zorn has opened up quite a lead in Monroe County of 74-79 over 5,026 for Doug Spade. You add in those numbers from Lenawee County, and that puts Doug Spade at about 12,100, and it puts Dale Zorn at roughly 14,000 votes. We're continuing on now these figures from the 17th District, State Representative District. We just had Bill Lavoie, State Representative Lavoie, in the studio here, and he is leading Charles Londo by a 724 to 587 margin. Now we're putting some more information in. The Monroe Township numbers are in, so that gives us another, I think, 6 or 7 precincts to put in, and I think, Dan, we're getting pretty close to the end of our night, but since we have the Monroe Township numbers in, and I know we've sent more help over to the city of Monroe to see if we can get those numbers before we sign off the air, but it's just, everything seems to be playing out pretty much, no surprises that we've seen over the evening, I don't believe.
And it does look like There aren't too many races that are so close at this point that we're going to go to bed tonight not knowing who's likely to win. By the way, on the Lavoie-Londo race, the Free Press on their website is reporting more precincts than what we have, and they have Lavoie winning 59% to 41%. Roughly the same percentage as what we have, but with greater totals. They have Lavoie around 4,300 votes, and that's 59% of what's in that. So it looks like Lavoie is likely going to win in that race. Of course, the one that was the most important to people at Monroe County Community College is the levy there, and I hope we get some more numbers on that before we sign off, so that we get a pretty clear idea whether it's going to pass or fail. Although at this point, it sure looks like it's trending towards not passing.
And Dr. Corte has reported over to the courthouse to see if any other figures have come in that we didn't have access to, and so he's likely not going to be with us anymore tonight, but I know he was rather disappointed at the margin so far in the results that are being reported. So,
yeah, at this point, the Monroe News is reporting 5,700 no votes to about 4,100 yes votes. So it's continued to be in that, more than 60% against it range. And it's pretty hard to turn it around when you get that many votes involved.
Right. Yeah, because even though you have large areas like the city, Monroe, and Bedford Township that have tremendous number of votes compared to everybody else, and Frenchtown as well, that's still not enough to, that's almost assuming everybody votes yes, and that won't happen.
Right,
so.
Right. And so it's one of those things where you don't say no until the fat lady sings, or however that saying goes. But it is not looking good for the millage at Monroe County Community College.
Going over some races. We won't have the figures with you now, but just in case you're joining us, in the 56th House race, Jason Shepard is leading Tom Redmond in that race. Also in the 4-year probate court judge race, Judge Lohmeyer is leading Jill Lavoie. In the race for First District Court, Jared Calkins has the most votes. Once again, Circuit Judge Braunlich has not been an active campaigner in that race and has indicated that he will not serve as First District Judge, but it's still very important that Jared Calkins be the top vote getter. Among the Monroe County Community College trustees all night long, the top 3 vote getters have been 2 incumbents, William Braunlich and Mary Kay Thayer, and Lynette Dowler is in 3rd place and has been pretty much all night. When you look at the figures for the state Senate race, understandably Dale Zorn with a commanding lead among voters in Monroe County from the precincts we have in. And then when you look at the precincts from Lenawee County, Doug Spade has a lead there. However, his lead in Lenawee County is not as great as the lead that Dale Zorn has in Monroe County. So you talk about, we don't know exactly when we go to bed tonight. That one might be a page turner.
Mm-hmm. There's a possibility.
It'll be close.
Right. Yeah. And when you have more than one county involved in a race, that makes it more complicated, both in terms of analyzing the race and in terms of getting the results in, because they're coming from more precincts scattered over a wider area.
Sure.
Yeah.
But we are going to be staying on the air until I think at least we get the Monroe Township results in, but we won't be on much longer because it is kind of getting to the witching hour, and I see that we have some new slides up, and I'm going to ask our technical people, we do have a new set of slides, and in fact, I think these numbers, Dan, are pretty much the numbers that you had just reported in the Monroe County Community College levy. 6,148 no votes to 4,577 yes votes for the college levy. So now, let me ask the control room, gosh, I hate to do this, it doesn't sound very professional, but does this include the Monroe Township numbers? Yes, it does. Okay, so we definitely are going to have some updated things. Can we go back up to the governor's race, and we'll go down the ticket again? There we are. We see it on our monitor. You'll see it very, very soon. And there, I think there it is. Okay, Governor Snyder declared the winner, winning quite handily here in Monroe County as well, 64-12 to 55-78 over Mark Schauer. On the Senate side, now this is a little bit different in Monroe County than it is in the rest of the state, because even though Gary Peters has been declared the winner, Terry Lynn Land has more votes in Monroe County than he does. And we still have the same slide up there. I was hoping to have some updated numbers to come with that, but that's one of those things, Dan, where it's a head scratcher.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is not generally a Republican county, and here you have a statewide race where the Democratic senator is leading very handily over the Republican candidate, but in Monroe County, the opposite's true.
Well, and I don't really know this, but it's possible that that Terry Lynn Land was perceived better in Monroe County than she was in the rest of the state in terms of the job she did as Secretary of State. Because I know she got a lot of credit for some of the upgrading and updating of the Secretary of State's office and going in to get your driver's license and vehicle registration, those
Sure.
kinds of things, which none of us like to do. But it was improved under her term as Secretary of State. And so maybe she did a better job in the Monroe County office than she did in others in the state, and people feel better about her here.
I had to go and change my address when I moved, and they took me right now. And
Yeah.
I was kind of suspecting that might be an afternoon-long foray, but it was very, very quick.
Well, and the pundits who looked at that race statewide early on thought that Terry Lynn Land had a very good chance of winning because she was a relatively popular Secretary of State, and she did do some good things in the
Yes.
Secretary of State's office. And the experts that I've read say she really just didn't run a good enough campaign, and that's the reason Gary Peters moved past her and ended up being elected our U.S. Senator, because he was effective in explaining what he would do in the Senate more so than she was during her campaign.
Right. And I liked his ad. I didn't like most of the ads I saw in that campaign, but I liked the ad where he had his holy shoes, his holy sweatshirt. His wife says, and this washing machine is the one we had before he was elected to office. And that just resonated with me. You know, I vote on issues, but that was something that really resonated with me, because I can understand, trying to keep a household budget together.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I think this was an important race for the state because they're replacing a legend, in one of the longest sitting senators in the country, in Carl Levin, and so it was important that we replace him with someone who could fill those shoes.
Sure. I see now that we have a slide that does have the U.S. Senate figures on it from Monroe County, and as we said, Terry Lynn Land with a lead in Monroe County and Monroe County only. 58-43 for Mrs. Land to 55-37.
And by the way, the statewide
Congressman
numbers were 55% for Peters, 41% for Land. So it was wasn't close even. It was a kind of a landslide for
Sure.
Gary Peters statewide.
Pardon the expression, a landslide. Let's take a look at our next slide in Congress. Wahlberg with a 66-01 to 35-21 lead over Pam Burns. Our next slide will be State Senate. And those figures are the same that we have reviewed just a couple of minutes ago. That was Dale Zorn was 74-79 to Doug Spade's 5,026. And that's, we got to tell you, those are Monroe County numbers only. So the numbers we have for Lenawee County have Doug Spade winning by 2,000 votes, by 71-63 to 69-25 over Dale Zorn there. We now continue on in the State Representative 17th District. Bill Lavoie with 724, the incumbent Democrat, and Charles Londo with 587. And in the 56th District, Jason Shepard now has opened up a 300-vote lead over Tom Redmond, 5,014 to 4701. And we're now going to look at the probate court race that will have Jill Lavoie and Cheryl Lohmeyer. Judge Lohmeyer is widening the gap a little bit there, as you see, 6,054 to 4,307 for Jill Lavoie. And in First District Court, we now have some updated figures there too. Jared Calkins is spreading the difference a little bit over Judge Braunley.
So it looks like Jared Calkins is going to pull out his win over his non-opponent.
Yeah.
And let's save everybody a little bit of a hassle by doing that.
And that fella has probably worked harder than anybody who never ran against anybody.
Yeah.
So good luck the rest of the way, Mr. Calkins, and hopefully for your sake, by the end of tonight, you'll be the Honorable Jared Calkins. The numbers continue to come in on the Monroe County Community College Trustees race. Bill Bronlick and Mary Kay Thayer, top vote getters all night long, joined by Lynette Dowler, and 3 other candidates are all pretty much closely grouped at 4 through 6, as you see on the screen. And then the levy, the 1 mil levy for the college, and we will have that just in a moment here, and that is 6,148 no votes, 4,577 yes votes, which we had showed everybody a moment ago. But that was the only statewide or the only countywide millage that we had tonight. So,
yeah. And when we had Dr. Kojay Korte, the president of the community college, on early in the evening, he was very positive about expecting this to pass, because that's the kind of feedback he got as he went through the community,
right,
that people were supportive of the college. So it's when we spoke to him the second time tonight, when he realized it was likely it wasn't going to win, he was realizing that this is going to be a challenge for the college to overcome the loss of revenue that this would have brought in. Now it looks likely it's going to fail, and he's not. Dr. Korte's not able to be with us again. He's gone over to the courthouse, but I think what he said was telling, and that was some programs will have to be cut, and the college is going to have to reevaluate every way that it spends money. That's what the voters said to do, I guess.
And when they speak, they speak.
Yeah.
And speaking of speaking, we're just about done speaking for tonight. We've heard from the control room that our new information is done, and so are we. So Dan, we want to thank you very much. Let's recap again for people just joining us. Re-elected was Governor Snyder. Elected to the United States Senate was Congressman Peters. I don't even want to try to call the state Senate race. Between Dale Zorn and Doug Spade, that's still very close.
I think that we can say that Dale Zorn is leading at this time, and it's fair to say that. Let me add one other little piece on that, and that is that the Detroit Free Press is reporting that Dale Zorn has a 53% to 46% lead with 1/3 of the precincts in.
Okay.
So with 1/3 of the vote. And so that's still not enough to say he's won, but I think it's enough to say he's fairly safely leading as we go to bed tonight.
Much rather be in his camp than the Doug Spade camp.
Right.
So, Dan, once again, it was enjoyable, a couple hours together here as we reported the results, and another great election, and we want to thank the folks for coming out to vote, and we want to thank everyone who helped tonight. We had your students from Monroe County Community College. We had 10 students from Monroe High School with various activities that they were involved in. The MPAC staff here and a number of different volunteers that were brought in, and I want to make sure I don't miss anybody.
Yeah, well, and I enjoyed working with you again, and this was fun to do, and I hope we can do it again. I would like to mention by name the 2 students from the community college who helped with these slides that we've seen on the on television through the night. They are Julia Wells and Mariah Tevipaw. Julia was editor of the Agora last year, and Mariah is editor this year. So they're 2 of the top students in journalism at Monroe County Community College, and I think they did a great job tonight.
Well, we want to thank you, the viewers, for being with us, especially those of you watching us around the world on YouTube. That's always a scary thing, because my mom might be watching in Florida, and I'll find that out real early in the morning. But once again, we want to thank you very much for getting out and voting. Thank you for being with us, for watching your vote count, and from all of us here for the broadcast tonight, we want to say thank you very much. Good night.
Okay.